Hi, we're back. This is SAT Test Prep. We posted a video yesterday that showed you a problem. We're going to show you how to look at the difference between knowing whether it's addition and subtraction or multiplication and division. So yesterday we went over this problem, or the video before this showed this problem, and even though you have 19 over 20, or 20 divided into 19, as they would say, equals p minus 1 1/4. And we went over this because of this sign, you are actually either subtracting or you're adding, depending upon how you look at inverses. And we went over the problem. You can see the prior video. We went over how 4 times 1 is 4, and then add 1 to that, and it's 5. And so you get 5 over 4. Okay, and then it's p minus, and then all of this equals 19 over 20. And we went over how to change the denominator. So this would be, you'd get your common or lowest common denominator would be over here. And this is equals 19 over 20. You can also take over the opposite already over here, but I'm going to go ahead and do it another way. And so what you get over here is you get, since 4 times 5 is 20, and 5 times 5 is 25, you get 25. Now, when we showed it yesterday, we didn't do this getting your lowest common or least common denominator until you went over to the other side. But this way, we're going to do it this way. Now we have to get rid of. So what we'll do is we'll go p minus 25 over 20 plus 25 over 20, so that they cancel out, equals 19 over 20. And be very careful which one you're going to take over, because your inclination is to take over your negative 25 over 20, but that's the inverse. That's not the inverse. The inverse is 25 over 20. So even though these cancel each other out, you're here. And so you're going to take this to this side, the positive. And so you get positive 25 over 20. And then when you add those out, you're going to get 44 over 20. Usually I don't do a problem like this. And then p is on this side, because these all equal 0. So this is what p is equal to, this number. Let's go into the next slide, and it's going to show you that. So, well, it shows you 22 over 10. It showed you how to reduce. But anyway, when you reduced, this is 44 over 20. And the reason is because you reduce this 2, and you got 22, and this 2 gave you this number, 22 over 10, and then you reduced it, and that was your answer. So, and we still left step 8 over here. Obviously, in this scenario, this isn't step 8. But now we're going to move on to another problem. All right, so anyways, we move on to problem number 2. We just went over how you have to look at what's happening here. This is positive. You don't see anything else here in this space. So this is 3 over 2. This is multiplication. And do you know why it's multiplication? It's actually multiplication division, because when you do the inverse, you're going to see that it divides against itself. But for now, you want to identify whether you're supposed to add, subtract, or multiply or divide. And so there's nothing here. This is 3 2 times a. And guess what? If you wanted to make it easier, you could do 3 halves times 1a. So now you know you're multiplying. And this is equals negative 2. Okay? So you have to make sure you're looking at whether you're adding and subtracting or multiplying and dividing. As we move on to this problem, remember I said you're multiplying? You're taking the multiplicative inverse and you are using that to do this. 3, 3, 2, 2, cancel out. And then you took the inverse. The inverse is if you say this is 3 over 2. What if I wanted to look at the mirror of this and I flipped it over? It would be 2/3. That's the inverse. Okay, so when you take the inverse, you cancel them out. Okay, because 3 times 2 is going to be 6, and 2 times 3 is going to be 6. So you would have 6 over 6a, which really is 1a, which leaves a by itself. So over here, I left it and I put -2 equals a. But guess what? That's not your answer. And 9 times out of 10, this answer will be on the test. That's not your answer. Your answer is going to be times 2/3. Remember, you got to do on one side what you do on the other side. So let's go on to the next equation. So we showed this. So when we took it over on the other side, 2/3, we got -4/3 equals a. And that is because you took 2 over here. And let's just do this very simply. 2 times -2. This is, remember, 2 over 1. And this is this. You're doing fractions, which is 3, equals -4 over 3. And that's the difference. And that's your answer. And it's that quick to understand. Thanks for watching. Have a great afternoon. This is just a simple problem. Probably this would be one of your easier problems on a standardized test. But here's what happens, and I used to get this confused a lot, because you see a fraction here and you're willing to automatically think reciprocal. Okay, but this sign, when it says p minus 1 1/4, that should not be a reciprocal, and you turn it into multiplication. This sign here says that you're supposed to subtract this value, 1 1/4, from p. But the problem is you don't know what p is. So that's why we're going ahead and solving it. Okay, so the instructions say go to the side that has the variable, that's this side. Change the mixed fraction to a regular fraction. And here's what you do, and then it gives you the steps. So I'm just going to do them for you. Once again, there's my crooked hand, but here you go. Let's, I'm going to do this part in purple. Okay, so you have 4 times 1. Okay, and this 4 times 1, and I'm going to use this as times 1, equals 4. And then when you get ready to add, you are adding plus 1. So you're going to get 5, and you keep the denominator the same. So it's 5/4. That's your new fraction. Okay, so when you move over, like I said, this is your new fraction, and your sign stays the same. Okay, over here, I just did the basic math, and I took it without the sign, but I'm deliberately leaving the sign so that you can remember. Denominator stays the same. Stays the same. So it's 5/4. 5/4, p minus 5/4. Now, you're going to take the positive of this 5/4 to the other side. And why are you taking the positive over here? Because this is negative. This is negative. So since you're adding or subtracting, you're going to take positive 5/4 to both sides. So I have it on this side and this side. So we move on. And this is now 5/4 plus 19 over 20 equals p. And these are going to cross out. Okay? They're going to cancel out because you took this to the side, and this leaves p by itself. So I just wanted to show and emphasize this because sometimes I give these out as handouts and notes to students. So I made sure I did all the steps. Okay, now these are canceled. And this becomes p plus 0, or just p. What are we doing here? This denominator is 20 because you always take it to the lowest common denominator that you can do. Your teachers might also say, find the least common multiple. But this means LCD, lowest common denominator, the lowest you can do has to be 20. You can go ahead and do something fancy like 60 or 100, but then you're complicating the problem. And the reason is because this is 20, so this is 20. And then you have to make this 20. But what do? You make sure that now you get a multiple that can go towards this, and 4 times 5 is 20. And a lot of students are getting this confused. 4 times 5 is 20, and then 5 times 5 is 25, and that's where you got the 25. So I always tell my students, go get your partner, make him 5, or make him whatever number it is, make him 5, take him out, take her out, however your preference is, and then bring them back down. And make sure when you do, you multiply so you can get more people to come to your party. So here you're going to get 5 times the amount because 4 times 5 is 20. And I'm going to go on ahead and make that clear and make sure you understand, because a lot of people say, where are you getting that from again? Because 4 times 5 is 20. Okay, but here's the deal. 4 times 5 is 20, but 5 times 5 is 25. So you have to bring 25 here. Now you have 25 over 20 plus 19 over 20. Your problem's almost done. So when you add this 25 plus this 20, you're going to get 25 plus 19. 9 and 5 is 14. Carry your 1 is 3, and there's 44. And you keep your denominator the same, so it's 44 over 20. Now, let's suppose you don't have this answer on the exam. You're going to have to reduce it, and already you can see that, remember, there's a rule. Whenever something ends in 2 or 4, usually 2 can go into it. And these are both even numbers. Okay? So if they're both even numbers, we know that 2 can go into it, and most probably 4. Not always 6, not always 8. Because when I say can go into it, I mean can divide it. We want it divided equally. Okay? We don't want any remainders. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put that here. No remainders. And we don't care if the numbers are even or odd. For the answer, we just want no remainders. Okay, and this even numbers means that usually if you have an even number, it's usually 2 or 4 can be divided into it. Okay? All right, so now let's go. And so you have 44 over 20, and then 2 goes into both of those. So when you take 2 into 44, you get 22. Okay? And you don't have to do full math to do this, because you see that's 2, and that's going to come out even, no remainder. And then this is going to come out 2. And hey, since elementary school, 2 times 5 is 10, so you get 22 over 10. And if you do 2 again, you get 11 over 5. Okay? So you have 11 over 5. And I'm jumping ahead because you can also take 5 into 11. And you can get 2 up top. 5 times 2 is 10. Bring down a 1. When you have a fraction, you bring this boy down here, or this girl, whatever you want to call it, and you leave this 2 here. And that's how you get your mixed fraction. Okay, and this is the answer that was actually on the test sample we used. So this is now the answer, and if they didn't have that answer, they might have a decimal. But if you really want to think about what's going on with the decimal, what you would do here is you would go 5 into 11, and you go 2, 10, you have a remainder. So you put a dot here for your decimal, put a dot here, and it's always a 0. So you carry your 0 down, and you get 10. 5 times 2 is 10, and then it kind of comes out even. Or you could also go on ahead, and what some people do is 1/5 is 20. Okay, 1/5 of a pie when you were younger is 20%. Okay, so if you turn this into a decimal, this would be 220 or 22. But here it's done for you. 2, 2, 10, 0, and that's your decimal. Okay, and think about it. 5 into 11 is going to be 2. A lot of people want to say 2.5. Okay, but 5 into 11, a lot of people want to take this and say this is 2 1/5 or something, 2.5, but it really isn't. So your answer would either be 11/5 or 2 1/5, and really do they make you go on to the next level. That's our one video of today. Thank you so much. Have a good afternoon.